She won't be judged anymore. Those 5 words changed everything. But Wynn didn't know that yet. The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty town square of New Mexico in 1884. Kate stood there, her hands bound with rough rope, listening to her own father auction her off like livestock. Barren, he called her. Worthless. The word hung in the air, like a curse that would never lift. Her husband had abandoned her. Now her own family was selling her to the highest bidder. The crowd murmured. Some looked away in shame. Others stared with hungry eyes, calculating her worth. Then a voice cut through the noise like a knife through silk. She won't be judged anymore. A tall stranger stepped forward. Bo Thatcher. He paid the price without haggling, without even looking at the other bidders. He untied her hands with gentle fingers and simply said, "Come with me." Kate expected the worst. Another man who would use her, abuse her, treat her like property. But what she found, that's where the real story begins. Bo led her to a small ranch house where 5 children waited. "They need someone not cruel," he said simply. "Can you do that?" The question hung in the air between them. The children were wary. Mira, the oldest at 12, watched Kate with suspicious eyes that had seen too much disappointment. Gideon, 10, barely spoke, his silence speaking volumes. The 3 younger ones huddled together like frightened birds. Kate had never been a mother. She'd never even been wanted, but she tried. Oh, how she tried. She burned the first meal, broke dishes, trying to wash them, couldn't sew a straight line to save her life. The children's disappointment was written on their faces. "She's useless," Mira whispered to her siblings, and Kate felt the familiar sting of worthlessness. But then Mira fell ill. High fever, burning up, her small body shaking with chills. Kate remembered her grandmother's healing herbs. The knowledge she'd thought useless, buried deep in her memory like a forgotten treasure. She gathered what she could find in the wild places around the ranch, made a poultice with trembling hands, sat by Mira's bedside through the long night, watching the fever's grip tighten, and then ... release. When the fever broke, Bo looked at her differently. The children brought her small gifts. A pretty rock, a wildflower, a piece of string they'd braided. "You can fix things," Gideon said, his voice filled with wonder. "That means you're staying." The first time one of them called her Mama, Kate's heart stopped. It wasn't through ceremony or force. It was natural. They'd chosen her. She'd found the family she was denied, but the world outside hadn't changed. In town, Kate faced her former mother-in-law and the new wife who'd replaced her. The cruel taunts came fast and sharp. "Still barren, I see. No man wants damaged goods. Some things never change." But Bo stepped forward, his voice cutting through their cruelty. He listed her virtues, made it clear she was valued, protected, loved. Kate felt something she'd never known: protection. Real protection. When a drunk trapper tried to assault her at the well, Bo's violence was swift and sure. He punched the man unconscious, wrapped his red kerchief around her wrist like a promise. "No one touches you," he declared, and the protective act deepened their bond in ways words never could. Gideon's axe injury nearly killed him. Blood everywhere, panic in the children's eyes, but Kate's medical skills saved his life, her hands steady even as her heart raced. The children's response was overwhelming. They brought her more gifts, declared she was staying forever, that she was family. They'd fully accepted her, chosen her, loved her. Bo confessed he never intended to keep her, offering her freedom. But Kate's response surprised them both. "I used to think love meant being chosen at first sight," she said, her voice soft but sure. "But I've learned something better, being chosen again after someone's seen who you really are." They kissed in the garden, surrounded by the life she'd helped create, the family they'd built together. The drought came like a curse. Everything withered. The earth cracked. The sky refused to rain. But Kate refused to let the garden die. She worked through exhaustion, through blistered hands, through the heat that threatened to kill. everything. When Bo fell ill with fever, she nursed him back to health, proving her commitment beyond doubt. Her hands were gentle, her care unwavering. Against all odds, a single tomato grew in the dying garden. One perfect red tomato. It became a symbol of hope and resilience. Bo kissed her hands, and they shared the tomato with the children like a sacred meal. Government contractors arrived with money for the land. They wanted it for a railroad. They offered a fortune. But Bo refused. "Not for sale," he said simply. They erected a sign. "Not for sale. Someone was once allowed to stay here. That's enough." The years passed. The children grew up and left, but the house filled with grandchildren. Kate's garden became legendary, growing wild and beautiful, a testament to love and perseverance. Wynn said the Bo carved her headstone. Here grew everything she was never given, and all that she gave anyway. After both died, the garden continued growing even in impossible conditions, not in neat rows, but in wild spirals of life. The sign remained, and travelers still slowed to read it, wondering about the story behind those words. Sometimes, dry hills bloom for the ones who chose love when no one else did. Sometimes, the most barren places become the most fertile ground for miracles. And sometimes, the people we think are worthless become the most valuable of all.